Into the Radius is a VR game that gives freedom. No one is pushing the player to do anything. I was free to explore anywhere I want. I could go straight to the endgame zones if I wanted to. When playing this game, I had a feeling that I'm dropped into a dangerous world that I don't recognize, which lives by its own rules, and it's only up to me to try to understand them if I want to survive here. And because of realistic interactions in VR, this world feels believable. In this video, I will tell you about the plot, game world design, progression, combat, and why using toilet paper is essential in order to survive in this game. The whole game is heavily inspired by a book called Roadside Picknick and S.T.A.L.K.E.R games. It's built around mysterious and unexplainable phenomena that are happening inside the zone affected by some unknown disaster. A dude with no memories appears in a strange area where he seems to be the only survivor. It is a base where a player can rest and prepare for the dangers that await outside. The game doesn't tell you what to do or why are you here, but the autonomous machinery inside the base can provide all the tools necessary for survival. There is no connection with the outside world. The only thing that interacts with the player is the PC terminal. It gives missions that at first glance look totally irrational, considering all the destruction and dangers of this place. But mysterious notes that appear upon completing those missions hints that players' actions are changing something, but not necessarily in this world. Outside of the base, the world is filled with various hostile beings, anomalies, and lifeless human shadows that shatter when touched. But everything is surrounded with thick fog. There seems to be no way to escape this area, as going into the fog will lead to getting back to the same place. And the only direction the compass shows is the sphere levitating in the sky. From the beginning of the game, the protagonist everywhere finds shadows. Upon touching them, the player can hear their thoughts or dialogues, but all of them are related to different time or even different reality. They seem to be oblivious to the surroundings.
I'm starting to like the new view. So green.
But eventually the player finds a white shadow which recognizes that the player is not like the others. It is the only shadow that seems to be aware of the disaster that happened here, and just like the player, is looking for a way out. Since the game doesn't give you any backstory, personal observations, reading notes, and audio cassettes is the only way to learn about this place and what's happening. As you explore, you will learn that the game world is made of separate, interconnected areas that can be entered by following the rope. It is the only way to move through the fog without getting lost. The game is not stopping you from exploring in any way you want. You can discover all areas at once and transition between them whenever you want. But the further you go, the more dangerous it gets. At the beginning, you will mostly see relatively harmless and slow entities, while later areas will have armored and armed enemies that are quite difficult to deal with unless you have good gear. The gear can be found anywhere in the world or bought from an autonomous shop in a train wagon. But better weapons require a higher security level clearance, and the only way to get that clearance is to complete strange missions that appear on the computer terminal. There are no character levels, but the game is perfectly balanced to give a feeling of progression by providing access to useful tools. Each time I returned to the base with pockets full of loot, I became a little bit stronger, but not because of generic increasing numbers like in most games. Like leveling up increases the health points or something like that. In this game, becoming stronger means that I was able to increase my abilities. For example, Detector allows me to explore anomaly clusters to find artifacts, that could be sold or used to my advantage, or headlamp that is a must-have quality of life improvement as it keeps both hands free, which is very important if you want to be able to hold weapons in a world where everything is trying to kill you. And of course, progression in this game means being able to use better weapons, but also not necessarily because they simply do more damage. Buying bigger magazines means that I needed to reload less often, or buying more magazines means that I was able to be better prepared for longer fights. There are various attachments like flashlight, laser, red dot or scopes that allowed me to be more effective, but again not because of some increasing stats, but because I had more tools in my disposal. So it becomes easier and easier to clear the same areas each time when the tide comes in. The tide is a phenomenon that happens every few in-game days when the fog starts expanding until it fills the whole area. After that, all items and enemies in the zone reset. The whole game world, except the base, is affected by these cycles, which on one hand means that you can loot the same areas indefinitely, but at the same time you will have to clear all the enemies again. When playing the game, I had a feeling that game developers are gun enthusiasts and love all activities that include having them. All weapons have to be regularly cleaned with brush and toilet paper, otherwise they can jam in the worst possible moment. Each magazine has to be filled manually, bullet by bullet. The more preparation you do in the safe house, the less things can go wrong during ventures into the zone. I've spent way too much time in the base area taking care of my weapons and organizing the items that I picked up on my trips. This little room feels like home where I can relax and prepare for my next adventure. And most importantly, these shelves gave me an excuse to hoard all that stuff that I will probably never need anyway. The storyline is almost fully made of reading short notes, listening to audio tapes, and making observations. There is an absolute minimum amount of instances when someone talks with the player directly. It greatly amplifies the survival sensation of the game. The player can feel that he is alone in a hostile place. But such storytelling does not offer a wide range of feelings. Storyline? 4 out of 10. The gameplay is great. Just like with all virtual reality games, pretty much any activity is more fun in VR than on flat screen, especially in games like this one with very realistic weapon handling. Gameplay? 9 out of 10. Replayability is okay. The game is designed in such a way that you are replaying it to some extent when visiting the same zones after each tide. After completing the main story, the only reason to continue playing is to try all the weapons. But there are custom difficulty settings that can be tweaked if you want a slightly different experience, but most importantly, mods that can make the gameplay significantly more different. Replayability? 4 out of 10. Thanks for watching, have a nice day, and remember, switching to a pistol is always faster than reloading.